He wasn't afraid to write down in any Yodea.
That's also a fact.
That's true too.
All right.
Okay, Harvey, are you there? Not yet.
Yeah, but others, I mean, all the Italian say I don't know what they know. It's only modern guys that if they don't know, they take them in this year. Or let me think about it and I'll call you. Which is what a rough is supposed to do.
But then they don't call.
If they're reliable, they do. If you have a Rav that when you ask a Shiloh and he doesn't call back, get another Rav. It's, every Rav I've ever asked a Shiloh to, and
Either that, the shadow was too hot.
then they call back and say I'm referring it,
To
call
somebody
Rabbi
else.
Schwartz. They don't just not answer
Right,
you.
right. No, it was, Michael's point there is very true and very valid. There were often times when people, for example, if there were shilas in regards to Nida,
Right.
for example, you're often told, don't necessarily try, unless you really feel you're a mumcha, don't try to paskin the shaila. Send the question to, or
Someone
you
more
ask
knowledge.
to somebody who's more knowledgeable on that particular field and get an answer from them. And then you can say, I checked with Rabbi so-and-so,
Right.
and this is what he
This is his psak.
said. Okay, that's not an inappropriate approach. Okay,
It's the only approach, really.
well, yes and no. There are people who, they may not be mumcha in the field, but still try to pass.
But they're all right, whatever.
Right?
Nothing paskin on the blood unless you were mumcha. You have to really know colors.
That's true. That's true. We're learning Mishnah Nida right now. Mishnah Nida right now, right? And that's one of the examples. Kashrut is also a pretty good example too. That there are situations where, is it, you got this in the mail?
This is the old one.
Okay,
Especially-
I just got, by the way, in the mail yesterday, not only the brochure to start, the poster to announce the starting of this Gemara. Okay,
What came yesterday?
just came yesterday.
Figures.
Okay, but I also got in it one copy of a new calendar, but not the big full calendar
Did it
that they had
change?
sent out. No, I don't think it
Okay,
changed.
so
But not the big full calendar, a new one that starts as of this coming week. Okay, and they ask, but on it was, of course, a form to fill out
get a
and to send a donation for the printing and things like that. But I was disturbed by the fact that it didn't say if you wanted to order more copies.
You said it had a form to order.
There's number
Oh,
number.
just
Okay, I'm going to start us with the sponsors, okay? And then we will go right into the, I've got the Zoom on already. So- Oops. Okay. Not yet. Marvin is here. Steve is here. Harvey's not on yet. That's what I'm.
the playing phone.
Okay.
Come on.
Learning sponsors. Year of Learning, Sue and Arnie Garlick in memory of Malcolm Perlman and Philip Mann. And Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Beryl ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Yosef Meir ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch. And Yerivka Pearl Rosner bas Arav Tzvi Hirsch, in the memory of family murdered in the Holocaust. Arav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch. Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Marsha Federbush and family, in memory of her husband, Dr. Oriel Paul Federbush, Oriel Pinchas ben Harav Shimon, Sharon and Fred Liska, their family and many friends, in memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman Edelbas Yaakov. Leslie and Gail Kaplan in memory of their parents, Harry and Marjorie Sedale, Irving and Pearl Kaplan. Friends of Avi Gitler, Avram Meir ben Shimon and Martha Gitler, Sharna Bat Yeshaya. Children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Saratoga Bat Yisrael Dov in her memory. Friends of Malka Levi, Malka Bat Yosef. Friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef Ben Chaim. Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata Bat Asher. Friends of Nina Moinester, Nechama Asna Bat Yitzchak. Now we have months of learning. Dov Bodlander in memory of his parents, Tzvi Ben Yaakov Yitzchak and Bela Drasha Basarav Dober, and his in-laws Yehuda Tzvi Ben David Nachum and Alta Chaya Bas Avram Yosef. Mel and Haran Haller in memory of his father Avram Ben Zev. Lynn Rappaport in memory of her husband Avram Ben Sion HaKohen. Have a week of learning by Edith and Steve Vigdor in memory of her mother, Glickel Bas Avram Yaakov, by Charlie Galfenstein in memory of his brother Shimon Ben Meir, by Michael and Sharon Glass in memory of his mother, Rivka Yita Bat Yitzchak HaKohen. Okay. And for Shabbos, that's right. Yeah, Shabbos, we have a day of learning by Jack and Sandy Friedman in memory of his father, Yosef Ben Yaakov. That's it. I mean, Shemas have an aliyah, crank or fear about the yeshiva Shemas aliyah. L'chol b'nei Israel, good gebench job. Okay. All right. Now, I will indicate that I had some problems with this today's Gemara. So we'll see what we can come up with. Okay, let's go back to the top of Gimel Amud Aleph. Okay, why did we say, okay, that an example when Abaye asked that Rav Yosef's explanation, okay, comparing Beitza Shel Noda to Peirot HaNoshrim, right? That the egg being laid is similar to fruit that has fallen off the tree. Okay, Tamamai, that was the bottom of the previous Amud. Gimel Amud Aleph on the top says the answer is Gzeira Shema Ya'aleh V'Yitlosh. Perhaps one would then climb up the tree and pick fruit. Okay, that was the answer given to Abaye. Okay, so the Gemara then responds, He gufa gzera, that in itself is a good decree. Va'ana nikum v'nigzor gzera l'gzera, and shall we come and establish and make a decree, one decree on top of another? And the answer the Gemara gives is kula chada gzerahi. That was all one. In other words, that for regarding the egg and regarding the fruit was all given at one time.
It's a broad piece.
All right, and therefore that is the answer given at that moment. Okay, now we're going to pick up their third line on Gimel Amud Aleph. All right, okay. We now get another, okay, we will be having four possible explanations to the Mishnah. Yeah, I don't know why it's not. Let's see if I see.
They want to discourage our learning. We used to daven in the basement, and go right into but no, they can't do that.
You know what matters is just switching.
What?
Have the 730 million.
We talked about
I
it
looked
till
at
we're
it.
blue in the face.
Yeah.
People have to have open minds.
But the thing is, the 730 million was always in the basement before COVID. That's not.
I think the problem is we have more people than the other. And when the winter people come, there's no way to be.
You turn down to like 70.
We're stuck doing the Gemara at Kenny's house.
Somebody can,
Is that
there
Zen?
was something in upstairs.
There it goes.
Or we could move,
Sorry.
yeah, I mean, there are
Yeah.
other alternatives that are not being considered.
Okay, we will not, right, as we switch over, certainly after the holidays, we won't fit in here, but maybe even before that.
We'll
Okay?
just have to put that on our evening.
We should build it in the field.
All right. Well, after the holidays. Let's see. All right, so I just quickly coming back. We've had 4 different
Three
explanations.
so far.
Okay, 3 so far. We'll be getting 4. Okay, first one said it was muktzah. The second one was Rabbah. He said it was a question of hachana, preparation on Shabbos. The next one was Rav Yosef, fallen fruits.
Yeah, but it wasn't really muktzah, it was really nola.
Right. Okay. Okay. So, well, we'll deal with that in a moment. Okay. So now we're getting we said the 4th. Rabbi Yitzchak Amar Gezerah Mishum Mashkin Shazavu. Okay. He says that the reason is we need to have a decree because of juices that seep out, okay, of fruit. Right? Amarle, he said, by system, Mashkin Shazavu, Tamamai. Okay, seeping juices, okay, things that liquid that comes out of a fruit. Think of of a grape or a olive, for
Pile of
example.
grapes and the weight
Okay.
causes the bottom one to burst.
Well, more than just that, though. Okay, Tamamai, what's the reasoning? Gzeira Shema Yiskot. Perhaps we're concerned that the person will squeeze. In other words, they'll get more juice out of the fruit. Okay, this, by the way, applies to oranges as well. Okay, right? He gufa gzera. That in and itself is a gzera. Va'ana nikum v'nigzor gzera al gzera. Shall we then make another gzera on top of a gzera? Okay, same question we had before. Notice with Rav Yosef's explanation. The answer the Gemara gives, Kula Chad Gzera. It was again all one single decree, one single Gzera. Okay, so coming back then, notice the Gemara now says, Kulhu, all of them, okay, namely the all 4, okay, of these explanations, Kirav Nachman Lo Amre. They did not present explanations to so we have questions about their the 4 different explanations we've had so far. What's one example? When Rabbi's explanation, okay, it was like his, which was Hachana, okay? Ella rather, Rav Yosef. What about Rav Yosef? Mai tamalo amar Rabbi Yitzchak. What was Rav Yosef's reasoning of Noshrin? Okay, why didn't he say the same as Rav Yitzchak, who gave the answer of Meshkin Shazavu? Okay, Amalach. Okay, what would he answer, Rav Yosef? Beitza ochla, an egg is food. Uperut ochla, and fruit is food. La'afuke mashkin, the lav ochla, and that excludes liquids, drinks, juices that are not a food. So that's one answer. Now we get to another shaila, V'Rabbi Yitzchak, which was our 4th explanation about mashkin shazavu, seeping juices. Right? My tamalo amar Rav Yosef. What's the reason that he didn't give the explanation like Rav Yosef? right? Who said it was Malach. So Rav Yosef,
Within the chicken.
okay, right? Umashkin bluin, okay? And juices are usually enclosed in the fruit, okay? La'afuke peirot de magalu, okay? Vikaimu. That excludes the fact that there are other fruits, okay, that are exposed, okay, and therefore, all right, that's why we established that as a different explanation. In other words, the same way the egg is enclosed, whether you argue it's in the chicken or in a shell, okay, the same way juices are enclosed, all right, that's this issue, right? Ve'af Rabbi Yochanan. So the Gemara now continues. So we've answered partly the question, why do we have this many different explanations to the Mishnah? Okay, but now the Gemara wants to go on and tell us. Notice, Va'af, and even Rabbi Yochanan, Savar Gzera Mishum Mashkin Shazavu. He also seems to be of the same opinion as Rav Yitzchak, okay? That it is because of juices that seep out, all right? The Rabbi Yochanan, Rami the Rabbi Yehuda, Ad the Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yochanan raises a contradiction in one statement of Rabbi Yehuda from another statement of Rabbi Yehuda, okay? What? Shani. And then he answers it as follows. Tnan, it was taught, right? Ein sochtin et haperot lahotzi mehen mashkin. Okay, that we are not permitted, I'm going to use that word for the moment, okay, to squeeze the fruit in order to extract liquids from it. Ve'im yatz'u me'atzman asurin. And if they came out from them their own, they are forbidden. Okay, so that would seem to imply that Rabbi Yehuda holds. If this is Rabbi Yehuda is the source of this Mishnah, okay, the point. All right, Me'atzman Asrim, Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Rabbi Yehuda, however, now says, Omer im laochlin hayotze mehen mutar. If their purpose of those items are for eating, then whatever juice comes out of them is permitted. And remember, it was Rabbi Yehuda who said, what, when we came to our original discussion? All right. He said, muktzah is, no? Asr. Okay. So this seems to be a contradiction. If he says that juice is permitted, and we said it was all one gezerah, so that's the question.
If you have a big fat juicy orange, that,
Yeah.
you know, it's not muksa, even though you're almost always using it for juice, you can eat it. Right? Food is not a muksa.
Well, if you bought oranges, say Friday, with the intent of squeezing them and having orange juice Shabbos morning, and you never got around to squeezing them, they would be muktzah, because they're not homemade lachila. If you bought oranges like navels that they don't squeeze, that they eat, then you could eat
What
it.
happened to the rule? Food is not a muksa. What happened to that rule? That rule is
That's
The
not
same
true.
with the chicken. And no,
not a rule?
That's the question.
that's not a general
It's
rule.
not a general rule.
It's a general rule, but there are pratim.
Okay, let's get into the Gemara, because that's going to begin to lead to that issue. Okay. All right. So here, that's what he said. Rabbi Yehuda Omer im laochlin hayotze mehen mutar, ve'im lemashkin hayotze mehen asur.
If they're for squeezing.
If it's for juice purposes, then it's forbidden. Okay. So that's the point. In other words, what was it designated for, that item? If it's designated for food, we said already before, think of the parallel. If the chicken was designated for food, then the egg is acceptable, because the egg that came out of it is also a foodstuff. If the chicken was designated for only lay eggs and not for food, and therefore the chicken is muktzah, okay,
Then the
to
eggs
use
are
on
muktzah.
Shabbat, okay, then the egg likewise is muktzah. Okay, so that's the parallel that they're looking at. Okay, all right. Alma, therefore, kol ochlin l'Rabbi Yehuda, ochla de ifrat hu. Any foodstuffs, then, according to Rabbi Yehuda, is considered separated, set aside. Okay, urminhu, but we raise a contradiction with this, right? Va'od, and further, Amar Rabbi Yehuda. He also said the following: Matana, right? Adam al kalkala shel perot b'yom tov rishon va'ochla b'sheni. Okay, that in this case a person could make, I'll use matne really, a condition. Okay, a person could make a condition about a basket of fruit on the first day of the holiday.
Rosh Hashanah.
Okay, well, I don't know if that's the
Rabbi
case.
Yehuda was in Israel.
Okay,
The only holiday that had 2 days was Rosh Hashanah.
but the point is, that if my Gemara wanted that, wouldn't it say that?
It does say that.
No, all of it says is B'yom Tov Rishon.
There is only one holiday in Israel that has 2 days.
Okay, anyway, Va'ochla b'sheni, then one could eat it on the second day. Okay, now, V'chein beitza shel nolda b'rishon, and likewise an egg that is laid on the first day, tocha b'sheni, one can eat it on the second day, right? What, I'm going to continue in just a second. B'sheni and b'rishon lo, on the second day, yes, on the first day, no. Okay, umisheni Rabbi Yochanan, and therefore Rabbi Yochanan answers and says, what is his response? Muchlefet hashita. Okay, namely that you have to invert in the first Mishnah, first part of the Mishnah, who says what. Okay, so why did Rabbi Yehuda say this? Okay, because he could argue if today is the first day, tomorrow is weekday, and therefore, okay, chol or chol hamoed or whatever, okay, and therefore it's not yontif. I can eat it. And now, if it's Yom Tov Sheni, okay, if that's the case, and this is today, this is really the first day. Okay, what was yesterday?
Chol, and I could be.
It was chol.
True, it's nice.
Right? Okay, so that's the point, right? Okay, so what happens, right? So he says, separate, change the approaches. Who said what in the first mission? Umidikam me laho ahadade shmamina chad ta'amahu. And since he raises this objection of one, okay, we learn from this that there seems to be one practice, one reason, right? The egg is prohibited, and okay, so the question is by rabbinic decree on liquid oozed comparable to the fruit, right? Now, Ravina is going to pick up and raise the following discussion. Ravina Amar le'olam lo tipoch. Okay? Don't switch the positions in that first mission. The Rabbi Yehuda, and as far as Rabbi Yehuda, the Divrehem de Rabbanan ka'amar lahu. What was he doing? He was simply answering them according to the perspective of the Rabbanan. Right? That's what he was answering. L'didi afilu barishon nami shani. According to me, he says, really, if I don't accept muktzah or nolad, okay, even on the first day, it would have been okay, right? It would be permitted. The ochla de efratu, because it's a food stuff and it's been designated, separated already. Ela ledidcho. Okay, but according to you, okay, namely rabbis, right? V'oduli mihat. you have to acknowledge me that nevertheless, the B'Sheni Shaya, that on the second day it would be permitted. The Shtei Kedushotain, because they are two separate sanctities.
Which proves
Now,
it's Rosh Hashanah.
okay, which may prove it's Rosh Hashanah. Okay, which may prove it's Rosh Hashanah. Okay, may. You're going to see why I'm not so quick to jump on that yet. Va'amrele Rabbanan. And the rabbis disagreed and say, Lo Kedusha Achati. It's not one, it's not
Lo,
a
Kedusha Achasi. It's
lo,
2 days
lo,
of
right,
Rosh
lo.
Hashanah are
Kedusha
one-
Achati.
all
It is
one
a
law.
whole single unit. Okay? In other words, it's Yoma Arichta. That's right, man.
It's still Rosh
Okay,
Hashanah.
so now that, right, now I will accept Rosh Hashanah. Okay? Right? Okay, now I will accept that. Okay? That's what the point was. All right, now you understand? I got to step by step.
Yeah, but when you have Rav Yehuda who lives in Israel and it talks about 2 days of Yom Tov, there is no option but to say you're talking about Rosh Hashanah, because never in Israel was any other holiday celebrated for 2 days.
Okay, I wasn't prepared to make that jump yet. That's all. Okay. Ravina Bereda Rav Ula. Now we have a new sage that's raising a point.
Who lives in Bavel.
Okay, he says as follows. Hacha. Okay, here, what are we dealing with? B'tarnagolet ha'omedet legadel beitzi. We're back to our original explanation. Okay, this is an egg-laying chicken, right? V'Rabbi Yehuda letame de'it leim muktzah, and he says, and Rabbi Yehuda is of the perspective that he does hold by muktzah. All right. Now, what happens, however? May tive. We're going to challenge that statement with the following: Echad beitza shel nolda b'Shabbat, ve'echad beitza shel nolda b'Yom Tov. The same applies to an egg laid on Shabbos. The same applies to an egg laid on Yom Tov. Ein metaltalin ota. Okay, we cannot move it. I'm going to use that phrase. Lo lechasod ba et hakli, not to use it to cover, okay, a utensil. Velo lismoch ba kar'ei hamita, and not to use it to put underneath the legs of a bed. Okay, we might think, how is that even?
The egg?
Yeah, if you have an egg vertically, it's very strong.
Yes,
Okay.
I wouldn't try to.
I'm not, because it will flip.
Okay, no,
The
but,
point is you can't do it.
okay,
The
but the point
interesting
is,
question is, how would you get it there if you couldn't move it in the first
right,
place?
okay. All right, but the point, all right, the implication is giving further examples
Yeah.
of the fact of saying that the same rule applies whether the egg was laid on Shabbos or the egg was laid on Yom Tov, implying that there is a concept of
The Chiddush here is saying,
muktzah, right? Okay, so what happens? Aval kofeh aleha et hakli b'shvil shelo tishaver, but one could put a utensil on top of the egg without moving the egg, so that the egg doesn't get broken, right? So what happens? Usfeika asura. Okay, and we say here then what? That if it was, implication being that if it was laid on Yom Tov, it's forbidden. Ve'im
What's the stuff?
if you're not sure whether the egg was laid on Yom Tov or not, okay? Nevertheless, we say it's also forbidden. Okay. Now, what happens? Ve'im nit arva ba'elef, and if the same egg who got mixed in with 1,000 other eggs, kulan asuro, they're all
What's happening? What's El Bashish?
okay.
they're not
Can't.
It's not, doesn't apply in this
Rebuttal doesn't
situation.
apply if
in this
tomorrow it'll
case.
be fine.
Okay, we're gonna get to that in just a second. All right, we're gonna explain that in a moment. All right, I'm gonna phrase your question differently. Does nullification really apply in all situations? The answer is no. Okay, because we're going to see that ultimately that is the issue. Okay, I give you the same answer Michael just gave you, but in a different way. Okay, all right, so what happens? Okay, Bishlema l'Rabba. It's acceptable l'Rabba. In other words, Rava's explanation still seems to work. Why? The Amar Mishum Hachana. Okay, because he gave us the explanation of Hachana, of preparation. Okay. Have Sveka de Oraita, the Kol Sveka de Oraita, l'Chumra. Because in a question of doubt, whether the egg was laid on Yom Tov or not, okay? If it was the day after Shabbos, okay, or not, okay? The question was, the issue is, we're stringent there, okay? Ela l'Rav Yosef, but according to the explanation that Rav Yosef gave of Perot Noshrim, Ula Rav Yitzchak, or according to the explanation of Rav Yitzchak, who said it was oozing liquids from a fruit, okay? Da Amre Mishum Gzera Sveka de Rabbananhi. Then that's only an issue of a doubt, okay, of a question of a rabbinical enactment. V'chol Sveka de Rabbanan Lakula. And there we say normally that any doubt from a rabbinic issue enactment is a leniency. So we should be able, so why are they arguing then that egg would be, or Safek egg would be forbidden? Okay, exactly. So Marle Seifa at the end Safek Treifa. Maybe when it says that there was a doubt about it, we're not talking about a doubt simply about the egg, all right? I will teach it that there's a doubt about the chicken, and the chicken itself may be a treifa, okay? Right? In other words, an animal that's potentially coming close within a year to die. All right, I'll translate treifa in that way.
Definitionally treif, which makes the
egg,
and if you
thing.
let that egg hatch to a chicken, that chicken would
becomes
be treif too, even though it's
right.
perfect.
Okay.
How do they know when it's going to die?
Because you're supposed to, if you're a kosher egg grower, you regularly check your hens for kashrus, whether they're not treifos. And if you do that, then we could say that unless you find that it's treif, it has a cheskes kashrus.
You don't know when this chicken's going to die.
Doesn't,
no.
That's why I changed treif globally. I mean, conceptually, treif means it has a condition that it might not be able to survive for a year. But specifically, if a chicken has a broken wing, it's treif.
Right.
Even if you could patch it and heal it and it would live forever, it's treif. Even if you do let it live forever, it's still treif.
Right.
Broken wing. So you're supposed to, here we're talking, birds are running around. Nobody knows anything about the status of the bird, and it lays an egg. So under normal circumstances, we give it a cheskes kashrus, and all we do is check for blood spots. But over here, the Gemara is suggesting the reason we say you can't eat the egg is because you don't know the yichus of the mother, and you can't check her on Shabbos.
Right.
So you have to wait till tomorrow. You could now check she has no broken wings. We could eat the egg.
Right. Okay, let's go on. If that's the case, then I would say, say about the end. Nit arva be'elef kulan asarot. It said if the egg got mixed in, implying if the egg got mixed in with 1,000 others, it would be forbidden. I amart b'shlema safek yom tov safek chol.
Won't I assume that everything is okay unless it's not okay?
Not necessarily.
No. Depends on the circumstance.
Okay, all right,
You have
if you're
to
going to
take
say
loans.
that it's all right at the, right, if it's a question about Yom Tov or question about weekday, have devar sheyesh lo matirin, then we could say, well, maybe it's an example of something that ultimately on its own is going to become permissible. Okay, right? V'chol davar sheyesh lo matirin, and any item that ultimately on its own is going to become permissible, afilu be'elef lo batel, even among 1,000, it doesn't become nullified. So this answers your question, Sam. There are situations where the concept of nullification, bitul, doesn't apply, right? That's what the Gemara is telling us. An clear example is some item that on its own will become usable. Okay? The Gemara is also going to may give another example too. All right? Ella iamrat safek treifa. If you're going to say that there's a doubt, a question here about it being a treifa, davar she'ein lo matirin, that's an example of something that doesn't become permissible on its own. V'tibatel beruba. And in that case, nullification does, the principle of nullification does work so long as there is a clear majority. Right. Right. Now, what happens? V'chitema beitza chashuva. So now I'm going to get to another example of a situation where bitul doesn't apply. Okay, we just had one example, right? Right? That was the concept of davar sheyesh lo matirin. Now we get to another concept. Okay, right? What is that? Beitza chashuva. That this food stuff is significant. It's important. It's a large portion. Okay, all right. Velo b'teila. And if the food stuff is considered chashuvah, significant, a large portion, okay, almost, I was once taught, think of it as worthy to serve at the table of a king, okay, as a explanation of chashuvah. But that was just whoever was giving the shiur that day.
No,
okay, all right.
That's a different concept. Really.
Okay, velo b'teila, we said. Ha nechel leman amar kol shadar kol limanot shaminu. Okay, but you're saying, how do we know it's significant? That would be acceptable according to the one who says that it is usually to be determined by and sold by, counted, okay, or sold by individual units, things like that. That's what we tell. Ela laman damar et darko limanot shaninu. But even according to the one who says that it could be counted, okay, and sold by units, the problem with an egg is that, yes, we might argue that eggs could be sold by units, but eggs could be sold by other means as well. Okay, by the weight, by the volume, things like that. Okay, right? My ikalamema. So therefore, what do we say? That's not, okay? By the way, notice the degree to which we've gotten already into kashrut concepts here. 2 or 3 different kashrut concepts suddenly are brought in here, okay? That's not, as we're taught, mi shahayulo chavilet tultin. Okay, or taltin, right? One who had bundles of, and I found the interesting, just Art Scroll, I think, translates it as fenugreek. Fenugreek. Okay. All right, but
it's like it looks like
it's an herb, right? Herb. Erwin, it's a kind of herb.
Looks like a carrot.
Okay. However, Koren translated it as clover. Okay,
That's interesting.
all right,
I
because,
like that.
all
At
right,
least I know what clover is.
It is.
Right.
So is Davidson.
Okay.
Davidson also clover.
yeah, okay, all right, so
What's
clover,
Astra say?
okay?
Davidson.
All right, so what happens if you have bundles of whatever, of this
Herb.
Shel klae hakerem, and right, it was from diverse crops. Yidlaku, you need to burn it. Nitarvu ba'acherot, va'acherot ba'acherot, and if this got mixed in with others and others with others, kulan yidlaku, divrei Rabbi Meir. They all should need to be burnt according
It's
to
really
Rabbi Meir.
fake.
That's right. Okay. V'chachamim omrim, but I'm translating the vav here. But the sages say, ya'alu be'achat umatayim, that batal will apply in this case, so long as it can be 1 in 200. Okay.
It's 1 at 1.
Okay. Shahaya Rabbi Meir Omer et shadar kolim not. Okay, that Rabbi Meir holds that it is a situation to be able to be
Fenugreek are in
countable bundles, right? Mikadesh. And therefore, what happens? In this case, it's forbidden, set aside, it's unfit. V'chachamim omrim eino mikadesh. But the sages say it's not forbidden, set aside, or unfit. Okay? Ela shisha dvarim bilvad, except for 6 things. Rabbi Akiva Omer Shiva. Rabbi Akiva says, no, there were 7 things. Ve'elu hein, and these are what they are. Number 1, eguzei parach. They're nuts from the city, from the area of Parach. Okay. Number 2, verimone badan. These are pomegranates. Okay, that had come from the area of Badad, which was a wadi near Hebron. Number 3, v'chavayot stumot. Okay, what is that?
Sealed.
Okay, sealed wine casks. Okay, the next one, v'chalfeit radyin. Okay, what is that? I got 2 explanations. One is prickly beets, and the other is branches of spinach. Okay, all right. Next, the kalchei kruv. Everybody agrees that's cabbage stalks. All right. Udlaat yevanit. Okay, and Greek gourds. Right? Rabbi Akiva Mosif. What does he add? Kikarot shel bal habayit. Okay, loaves that are homemade bread. Okay. In other words, again, are these things normally sold by a unit, or they could be sold in groups and things like that? Okay, so going on then. Hara'ui.
These are all things that are always units.
Okay, all right. So hara'ui la orla, orla. That which is appropriate under orla is subject to orla. Hara'ui la kalai hakerem, kalai kerem. That which is subject to diverse crops, all right, is subject to diverse crops, right? What happens? Ve'itmar Allah. And about this, okay, the Mishnah, what he said as follows, all right? Okay, so we're talking about on this Mishnah that we just cited,
The 7, 6 or
right,
7.
with these 6 or 7 items, okay, regarding Rabbi Meir's opinion. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, et shadar kol limnot shaninu. That we were talking about only those things that are exclusively to be counted.
Sold in units.
Right? Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Amar, kol shadar kol limnot shani. That anything that could be sold in units is what we're talking about.
So he's very much
Right.
a potato.
Right. Hanichala Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. This sounds understandable according to the view of Reish
According to the
Lakish.
egg.
Right? If you apply the egg as a parallel to these items, right? Ela Rabbi Yochanan, my ikala memar. But what are you going to say about Rabbi Yochanan's opinion? Amar Rav Papa, this is Rav Papa. What? Hi, Tana. All right, this Tana, what did he do? Tana delitra kutsi auto. He was talking about a liter of dried figs. The Amar kol davar shebeminyan afilu b'derabanan lo batil. Okay, that anything that is, let's say, acquirable as a unit, okay,
Even if it's only
even if
occasionally.
it's only under rabbinic understanding, right? In other words, it's not always the case. It still is not susceptible to nullification.
Midrabana.
Midrabanan, right?
I always learned it.
Right? The kol shekain b'doraita, and certainly if it's a rabbinic Torah mandate, that none, because we have learned litra ktziot shedarsa al pi agul. Okay, that if we have this liter of dried figs, okay, and it is pressed, okay, around the top in a circle of a barrel or of a container, right? Ve'eno yodea be'eza agul darsa, and we don't know
Which mold you
which mold, which bowl, which cask, which whatever we used. Al pi chavit, and it's done around this top of a cask, right? Ve'eno yodea be'ezu chavit darsa, and we don't know for sure which cask we molded this ring of dried figs around it, right? Al pi kaveret, all right? If it was done by a straw basket, ve'eno yodea be'ezu kaveret darsa, or if it was, and we don't know which dry basket, a straw basket, I'm sorry, it was pressed along. Rabbi Meir Omer, he says Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Eliezer, Omer would just go over a little bit in Dalet, right? Says Ro'ina ta'elyonot, ki'ilu hein perudot v'hatachtonot ma'alot et ta'elyonot. Okay, what do we see? He says that the upper ones press down on the lower ones, right? Right? And therefore, what happens? Ki'ilu hein prudot v'hatachtonot ma'alot et ha'elyonot. And the lower ones rise up, and therefore they're going to nullify the upper ones, right? What happens though? We're going to see this as an issue. Rabbi Yoshua. That they are nullified in a certain amount, 100, right? Pumi, if there are 100
good one, 100 good ones.
good ones underneath figs, right? They'll go up. The imlav hapumin asurin. Then they are
Well,
forbidden.
there aren't 100, then
They're not,
good.
right? Bashulin mutarin. And that the
Bottom
bottom ones are acceptable. And we'll stop right there. Okay.
So you said you had difficulty. I didn't see your difficulty.
I felt it was a difficult Gemara. First of
The
all,
last part is very.
okay, the first of all, number one, okay, that after presenting the four different explanations, that the Gemara starts asking, why does this one not say this one? Why does this one not say this one? And then somebody else is brought in. Then you come back to go back to a whole different explanation. Then on top of that, we then try to make parallels and bring in a number of kashrut concepts. If we weren't already familiar with some of these concepts vis-a-vis kashrut, okay, and understood them from having covered some of that material before.
Your pressed things I didn't understand. I read 4 times.
Take care, everybody. Have a good Shabbos.
You know it, you understand it?
Hello. Just about.